Hi, welcome to another dose of virtual vitamin Z. My name's Stephen, and I'm the curator of humane education for the Detroit Zoological Society. And yesterday, in part one of this lesson, we talked about Bigfoot. Okay, well, technically we talked about whether or not we have big ecological footprints. So today, in part two, we're going to be talking about smallfoot, or how we can have smaller ecological footprints. So this is Ecological Footprints Part 2, How to Become an Ecological Smallfoot. And we are going to be reviewing some terms from yesterday, and then we'll also use a new term. And we're going to be reviewing ecological footprint, and then we'll touch upon these other mathematical terms. And the new term we're going to be focusing on today is Earth Overshoot Day. So as a review, an ecological footprint is a measure of our impact on the environment, and it's referring to the amount of land it would take for one person to sustain, for the planet to sustain one person's needs in terms of natural resources. And it can be measured in a few different ways. It can be measured in hectares, which is the size of a couple of football fields, or it can be measured in a couple of different ways, like how many Earths it would take if to support our needs if everybody on the planet were like me, or our Earth Overshoot Day, which is at what point in the year do we go from using resources that the Earth can regenerate in a year to starting to actually cut down on the Earth's resources. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So we talked about going to this website down at the bottom to calculate our ecological footprints. Now, if you're just joining us and you haven't had a chance to do that, that's okay. You can continue on with this lesson and do the activity by using an estimated ecological footprint, and then you can go later to do that. And for example, the estimated footprint you might use is mine, which was 2.5 Earths, and my Earth Overshoot Day is the 24th of May. Or you can think about it in terms of hectares. 4.3 hectares was my ecological footprint, which is about the size of 9 football fields. And then the activity we did was we created a pair of ecological feet. And these are my ecological feet, and they represent not my regular footprint or my regular foot size, but the size of my ecological footprint or my ecological feet. As you can see, it's considerably larger than the area of my feet themselves. And if you didn't have a chance to do this, you can definitely go to the previous video and do this. But for now, you can continue on, and I'll just have you use a piece of paper for the next part of the activity. And then I walked around in my ecological feet, and I encouraged you all to do the same, to start reflecting on the impacts that we have and start to think about why it's so important that we try to do something to minimize our ecological footprints. So now what I want to do is first of all show you this website. And this website is a continuation of the ecological footprint calculator. But what it does is it shows us, it'll show us how our ecological footprints compare. So if you look at the United States right now, we can see that it's red, which suggests that we are basically using more resources than the Earth can sustain us with. And if you look at these green areas, they're doing a bit better. They're actually living more sustainably. Another way we can think about it is total ecological footprint. And as you can see, the darker the orange color is, the larger the footprint. So we can see that in the United States, we have pretty high ecological footprints. One other thing that's great, though, is now that we know a little bit more about our ecological footprints, we can do something about it. We can explore solutions. And so if you see this link down here, Explore Solutions, I'm going to click on it. Oops, and it looks like that's under maintenance. Let me try accessing it another way. And if not, I will have to just explain what we can do. So all right. So fortunately, I do have this photograph, though, this screenshot from it. And as you can see, if you visit this solutions page, there are 5 different categories. One of the categories here is city. So solutions that involve your city. And one of those is contacting your community leaders to talk about how we can support more sustainable infrastructure like bus lines and bike lanes and things like that. Another one is energy. So thinking about how do we minimize our energy use or use more renewable energy. Another one is food. Another one is population. And then another one is called planet. And for planet, it talks about how we can nurture the planet, how we can do things to care for our local environment, like planting gardens and planting trees and preserving forests and things like that. So be sure to check that out so that you can get a better sense of the specific actions within those categories. So what I want to do now is continue on with an activity that's also an action. So it's an activity we can do, but it's also actions we can take to start reducing our ecological footprints. And the attitudes, knowledge, and skills that we'll be gaining include an increased sense of responsibility. As we start to realize we can do things, we'll actually start to feel more responsible for doing them. And then strengthening our empathy too, because empathy, or the ability to take the perspective of another being, can be strengthened through actually going out and practicing it. And in this case, we're taking actions that are for the good, not just of ourselves, but of other people and animals in the environment. So it's a great way to strengthen our empathy. And then finally, because we'll be reducing our ecological footprint, we'll be allowing other animals and the environment itself to be healthier and to thrive. So we'll be helping them too. And the supplies we'll need include a computer with internet access, your ecological feet if you made them. If not, just a piece of paper will be fine. And then a marker and a pair of scissors. And the instructions are to visit the footprint calculator's solution to move the date page, to identify one solution category on which you'd like to focus and learn more about it. So for example, maybe you want to focus on the category of food, or maybe you want to focus on the category of energy. And then you're going to learn more about that topic and identify three concrete actions that you can take to start reducing your ecological footprint within that category. And one of those actions should be easy, or even really easy, something that you can do right away to start on a good foot, so to speak. Then one should be moderate, which means that it should be something that you can do, but it might take a little bit more effort or time or planning or something like that. And then finally, one of them should be difficult. Something that you maybe see as a challenge to overcome. And you'll write all of those down on your actual ecological feet. So to do this, first of all, put on your ecological feet and then draw the outlines of your real feet on them to get a sense of the difference. And then all of that space that's outside of the outline of your real foot, but still on the ecological foot, divide that into three parts. And I'll show you how I did this in a moment, but there's really no right or wrong way to do that. And then write one of your three actions in each of the parts. And then go ahead and take that easy action and then remove that part from the ecological foot. And then because the medium and hard actions will take more time, rather than doing them right away, which you probably won't be able to do, develop a plan for taking them and then start implementing that plan. So to illustrate this, here's a photograph of my ecological feet. As you can see, I drew the outline of my shoes on them, and then I divided them into three parts. And the easy part was smaller, the moderate part was a bit bigger, and the difficult part was the entire right foot. And I wrote down my actions. So it's a little bit hard to read, but I decided to focus on food, and in particular, food waste. I thought that was something that I could do some good work in that area. So my easy action was that I'll eat all of the food I purchased this week before it spoils. So if I see something starting to spoil, rather than saying, oh, I don't really feel like eating that, I'll eat it right as it's getting a little bit, right as it's ripe, even if it means maybe, eating a meal that I might not want to eat at that moment. The moderate action is I'll start composting my food scraps. And that's something that I think it'll take me a little bit of planning and a little bit more effort, but still something I think I can do. And then finally, my difficult action is I'll inspire my favorite restaurants to develop their own food waste plans. Maybe it's composting, maybe it's something else. And I said that was difficult because that's something that I think will take a lot more planning and effort, but I think that it can have a really big impact. So I put that down as difficult. And then I actually did the easy action, and so I cut it off. And as you can see, by doing that action, I've literally reduced the size of my ecological feet, and more symbolically, I've started reducing the size of my ecological footprint. Now, I'm not suggesting that in 3 actions we can go from having a ecological footprint of 2.5 Earths to having one of just 1 Earth, but I think that it's a good way of doing this activity to symbolize that by taking these actions, we are actually having an impact. So that leads me back to the Detroit Zoological Society. And yesterday I talked about how our Berman Academy for Humane Education has the mission of helping people help animals, but we also talk about walking softly on the earth. And the first step is understanding the impact that you have on the planet. And then the second step, which we've learned today, is to identify solutions so that you can start to minimize that impact. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about the Detroit Zoological Society's Green Print, which is our strategic plan for, as an organization, minimizing our impact on the environment. And if you visit the Detroit Zoo or the Belle Isle Nature Center, you'll see many different ways in which we're putting this plan into action. But if you continue to follow us, you'll also notice that we aren't stopping, we're continuing on this journey. And so it says here over this green bear, join us on the green journey. And we say that because we hope that you see that we're doing our best to live our values and also inspire you to join us in doing the same. So I hope that you've enjoyed this 2-part lesson on ecological footprints. If you're interested in more virtual vitamin Z, be sure to check out our website at detroitzoo.org and then click on the education tab and the link for virtual vitamin Z lessons. Until then, stay safe and have a great day. Bye.